Hey there, Looma. Here are the kitchen towel holders, and I'm Denise from LoomaHat.com. I'm super happy to be able to show you how to make these. They're so easy. We're going to knit a rectangle like this, and then I'm going to show you how to attach 2 rings to each end. When you fold them over, there is your kitchen towel holder. Now I did 3 different stitch patterns, but for this video we're going to focus on the seated rib stitch. To get all 3 patterns, make sure you visit LoomaHat.store for the bundle, and it'll detail each pattern individually. Okay, to knit this you're going to need a large gauge loom with at least 15 pegs, 53 yards of worsted weight yarn, hook, needle, scissors, 2 4-inch rings, and optional set of stitch markers. All right, let's get started. We're going to be knitting with 2 strands of yarn held together as one, and we're going to need a long tail for this project. So the first thing you're going to do is measure out anywhere between 25 and 35 inches first. This is what you're going to do, and in my case I'm only going to use 25-26 inches because I'm going to do a U-wrap cast on, which I will tighten later on, and that's going to give me another 10 inches. You want to make sure you have the really long tail. And then I'm going to secure my working yarn to the base of my knitting loom using a simple knot. You can use a slip knot and place it on an anchor peg if you're more comfortable. Placing it on the base of the loom is going to work for me, but either one works fine. And then I'm going to take my working yarn and I'm going to put it behind the first peg. I'm going to then completely wrap the peg, and then I'm going to wrap 14 more because I need to U-wrap cast on a total of 15 pegs. So first, wrap them. Now this is the cast on that I'm comfortable with. You can use a crochet cast on, whatever you're comfortable with. This project is not picky. This just works best for me because, like I said, I want to tighten the cast on. You don't even need to do that if you do this U-wrap cast on. It's just me. Okay, so that is peg 15. I've wrapped all my pegs, and now I'm going to turn around because we're knitting flat, in other words back and forth. So I half wrap peg 15 and I knit off, and I'm going to tighten that stitch, and then I'm going to knit it again. Okay, so I'm going to knit peg 15 again, and now I have turned around and I'm knitting in the opposite direction. So I'm going to half wrap the peg, take the bottom loop over the top, and knit off. And I'm going to continue to do that. I need to knit off all 15 pegs. So continue doing that. And I do have a video on how to knit with 2 strands as one, how to bring those 2 yarns together. You can do that with 2 skeins, 2 balls of yarn, or 2 ends. Okay, and I'll put a link in the description for you to know if you're not aware, to give you some ideas on how to be able to knit with 2 strands as one. So continue going with your cast on. You can use, like I said, whatever favorite cast on you have. And here is my peg number 1, which means I am done with my cast on, and then that means I am ready for row 1. And for row 1 we're going to knit 3, purl 1 until those last 3 stitches, and then we're going to knit 3. All right, so we take the working yarn, and the first thing we're going to do, of course, is those 3 knit stitches. So we're using the U-wrap version of the knit stitch. You half wrap your peg, take the bottom loop over the top, and knit off. That's my knit stitch 1. Here's my knit stitch 2, and here is knit stitch number 3, and I'm going to follow that with 1 purl stitch. So I take the working yarn, put it under the existing loop, with my hook from the top, I'm going to scoop up and create a new loop. See it right here? I'm going to take the loop that's on the peg off the peg. That's the old loop, and I'm going to put the new loop on and pull on my working yarn to tighten that stitch. All right, that is the 4-stitch pattern. So we're going to again knit 3 and purl 1. That's the stitch pattern. See, it says to continue to do that. Continue to do the stitches that are in parentheses until you get to those last stitches. So again, I'm going to knit 3 and then purl 1. And you see that I have stitch markers every 4 stitches. By the way, these stitch markers are available at LoomaHat.store, and they do help you to follow the stitch pattern a lot easier. At least for me it does. Okay, so I'm done with the repeats, right? The knit 3, purl 1, and now I'm at the last 3 stitches, and the pattern says those last 3 stitches we're gonna knit them, and we're gonna use the U-wrap knit. So you half wrap and take the bottom loop over the top and knit off, and you need 3 of those at the end of the row. And then once you knit off that peg 15, you're now done with row 1 and you're ready for row 2. We're going to start row 2 with those 3 end stitches, and we're going to knit a purl 1, knit 1, and then purl 1, and then we're going to do our pattern repeat, which will be 2 purl stitches, 1 knit stitch, and 1 purl, and you're going to do those 4 stitches until the end of the row. You can clearly see where I have marked these 3 stitches that start and end these rows. So they help me know that this is a little different here, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is purl. That's that purl 1. Then I'm going to knit 1. So I half wrap the peg and knit off. And then I'm going to do a purl 1. Now you'll notice that I use a little rubber band to mark these 3. I like this marker because it stretches. It'll stretch, I think, up to 5 or 6. These are also available at LoomaHat.store, by the way. All right, so we did our purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. Now we're ready to start the 4-stitch repeat. And so we're going to purl 2, knit 1, purl 1, and you're going to continue to do that until you end the row. So let's start with those 2 purl stitches. Here's my first one, and then here's my second. So I put my working yarn under the existing loop, scoop up, create a new loop, take the old loop off the peg, put the new one on, and pull. And you see that I have more than one way of knitting the purl stitch, and I'm doing this on purpose because I want you to see that there is more than one way to knit a purl stitch, and so that you find what is most comfortable for you. That's what knitting is about. You can try different ways of doing the same thing. Okay, so there's my first repeat, and I'm gonna continue. So I'm doing it again. 2 purl stitches, 1 knit stitch, and then 1 purl stitch. I want you guys to notice how we're reading these instructions, and I want you to pay close attention, because if you buy the pattern bundle, which has the other 2 different stitches, you understand how to read when it says do these until the end. It's the ones in parentheses are the ones that you're doing until the end of the row here on row 2. So you started with those 3 stitches, right? And now you're doing the stitch repeat, and the stitch repeat is in parentheses. This is going to be the same that is going to happen when we do the other stitches. Now, as you guys continue to knit, I'm going to take this time to say thank you to Carol Maple from PromiseLearningATL.com, Penny Pitchard, Barbara Ledger, and Linda Rapp for covering the cost of closed captioning this video, and for continuing to support me in making all of these videos for you guys through Patreon. Thank you so much, ladies. You're the best. Once you're done with row 2, you are ready for rows 3 through 40, where you're going to repeat rows 1 and 2 19 more times. times. And if this is difficult for you to imagine, let me give you a visual. So here is rows 3 and 4, which are exactly 1 and 2, 5 and 6, which are exactly 1 and 2 in a row, and 7, 8. And now all you're going to do is continue to do that until you have 40 rows in total. And by the way, once you've done a couple of rows, 3 or 4, go ahead and take the knot off the base or the anchor peg, wherever you placed it. Be sure to take it off after a few rows. You don't need it once your yarn is secure. Your last row for this project is row 41, where you're basically doing row 1. You're going to knit 3, purl 1 until the last 3 stitches, where you will knit 3. And then you're ready for the cast off, where we're going to do the basic bind off of those 15 pegs. Let me show you how to do that. The basic bind off is worked off of 2 stitches. And by the way, don't worry on which side of the loom I am. Don't fixate on that. It's no biggie. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to knit off those first 2 stitches. So flat or U, either one of them will work just fine. Take the bottom loop over the top, knit off. That is your peg 2, right? 1 and 2, because you're working over 2 pegs. Take the loop off the second peg and move it to the first one. Tighten your stitch and take the bottom loop over the top to knit off. You're now going to take that loop and you're going to move it over. When you do that, you have 1 peg that has been cast off, and now you have a new pegs 1 and 2. All right, this time and from now on, you're only going to knit off the second peg. So you knit off, take the loop off the second peg, move it over to the first peg, and take the bottom loop over the top and knit off. And now you take that loop off the first peg and you put it over the second one, and you can see at this point that you have cast off 2 pegs, and you're going to keep going. You go to the second loop and you're going to knit off, because again, now you have 2 new 1 and 2. Take the loop off 2, put it on peg 1, tighten the loop, take the bottom loop over the top, and take the loop off peg 1 and move it over to peg 2. Now there's 3 pegs that you cast off, and you're ready to move on to the next 2 pegs. You got this, right? I'm going to let you listen to a little music while you watch me cast off a few more loops, maybe a little faster. All right, here we go. Now we're at the last 2 pegs, and you're going to do just like you've been doing. You knit off that second loop, you tighten it, and then move it over to that first peg, tighten it, take the bottom loop over the top and knit off. And now that last loop, just pull on it just enough to get the project off the knitting loom, and take some either a measuring tape or anything that you can use, a ruler. You need to measure out at least 30 to 40 inches of yarn, because you need a really long tail. It's better that you have extra and you cut off than not to have enough. So 35 to 40 inches you cut, and then you can pull on that last loop and it becomes a knot on the end. You see that right there? Okay, your cast off is done, and the next thing you need to do is you need to stretch your stitches. When you use the U-wrap, it's super tight, and the flat is as well, so the project is not going to look correct until you've pulled your stitches. You stretch them out from the top, bottom, and on the sides. Now, you don't have to do the next step, but for me, I find that it helps the project to look way better. So I'm going to tighten my cast on, and this is the side where I did the cast on. I go to where the tail is, and I'm going to remove this knot. You see right here, this is where we did the 2 knit offs on this first stitch. So it creates a knot. You're going to remove it. You don't need that knot there anymore, and it's going to make it easier for you to do the last step. So go to the other end once you remove the knot and pull on that first loop on the edge. It's all the way in the corner, and then pull the very next one. And you know where the next one is because when you pull on the loop, it pulls on the other one. See, here's the next one, and then the next one is right next to it. Almost looks as if it was under that loop that you pulled. You could see that it, like I said, it almost looks like it's under it, and you could see how much yarn is loose. It's a lot of yarn. It's a lot of loose yarn, and so I'm pulling it, and here's my last one, and see, I pull that and I create a knot with it, and now it's secure. Again, you don't need to do this. I just like that it looks much neater when that's done. Next step is that we're going to go ahead and attach the rings. So this stitch happens to be reversible. It looks almost the same on both sides, but it's a good idea to put a little marker on the side that you like so you can keep it consistent, and then get a needle. You bring the ring close, and we're going to thread a yarn needle with our 2 strands, with both of them, and we're going to hold the top of the triangle with the top of the ring nice and close, and then we're going to wrap that yarn around the ring and bring it over to the very top corner loop, and we're going to feed the working yarn through that loop. And since you wrapped it around the ring, you see that it creates a loop that connects the ring to the tip of the rectangle. Then just keep doing that. You're going to wrap it. You're going to wrap the strand of yarn around the loop and through, or I'm sorry, around the ring, and then with the needle, ring the 2 strands through the top loops and out. And then just keep doing that. You wrap it around the wooden circle and then feed the yarn with the needle through those top loops, and just keep going. You need to do this through all of your top loops. Make sure that they all have it. Do as many as you can, and this is why you needed that really long tail. Keep going. Okay, once you're done with all of your top loops, go ahead and push the loops together, right? The ones that are on the ring. Push them together, and then make sure that you get, you feed your last yarn through that corner loop, right? Make sure that they're all done. Squeeze them in together to the middle, and then shape it so that the ring is on the top. It's not folded. It looks folded when you're doing the sewing, but once you're done, go ahead and make sure that your ring is sitting on the top of your project. And as you can see here, I kind of ran out of enough thread to weave in the ends. So I took the needle off the thread, fed the needle in first, and then this very little bit that I have left of thread, now I thread the needle and I push it through because I need to weave in these ends. I need to secure them. And then I went down. Now I'm going to go in the opposite direction. So I do the same thing again. First I feed in the needle. Then I'm going to thread it with the strands of yarn and then I'm going to feed it through again. Another thing you can do if you don't have enough thread at the end to weave in your strands of yarn is to take your hook and pull on the ones that are on the wooden circle. Just pull on them, and as you pull on them and you're getting closer to the end, you'll see that you'll have extra yarn. As you pull, you could see it, right? At the end of this, you'll have a longer strand. Okay, so I've reached the end, and you see that I do have a little more yarn left, right? It got a little bit longer. So I'm going to try it again. I'm going to thread my needle, feed it through, and it's only going to let me feed it once. I did want you guys to see it again because the video was a little blurry in the last clip. This shows you more clear. So first I fed the strands down. Now I want to feed them up because I want to secure that yarn. So I feed the needle first, then thread it and feed it through, and I'm going to do it again in the opposite direction. When you do that, that secures, you weave in the end and you secure those ends so that your project doesn't come apart. I want to thank you for watching the video all the way to the end because this helps me a lot with the YouTube algorithms, as well as when you guys share the videos, when you comment, and of course when you subscribe. And one more thing I want to invite you to do is to sign up for the newsletter at LoomaHat.store, because that newsletter will always tell you when there's a new video, when there's a new project, and most of the time when there's a new project there's also a coupon for you to get a discount on the pattern, and every now and then there's some free stuff included, so don't miss out. Go to LoomaHat.store. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Make sure to put another wooden circle on the other end so there's one on both. And hey, this is not just for the kitchen. You could use this in the bathroom and in the bedroom. Alright, now hang tight because YouTube is going to show you a video they think and I think you're going to like. Don't miss out. There's a project there just for you. Bye.